You ever get that feeling like life came with an instruction manual, but, I don't know, a few key pages just got ripped out? Well, today we're going to try and find that missing blueprint. We are diving deep into psychologist Erik Erikson's amazing map of our entire lives, a theory that really gets to the heart of why you are the way you are.
I mean, it's such a common feeling, isn't it? That little voice of doubt that pops up, even when everything seems to be going great. We're going to dig into where that voice might have actually come from. And then there's the classic midlife crisis. Is it really just about buying a ridiculously fast car, or is there something deeper going on? Some kind of psychological need that's just not being met?
Or how about this one? That feeling of just drifting, like you're still trying on different hats, trying to figure out who you are, long after high school is over. Well, according to Erikson, the answers to all of these questions, they're all connected.
Okay, so the key to all of this is a concept Erikson called the psychosocial crisis. Now, I know what you're thinking. Crisis sounds bad, but don't let that word scare you. It's not a catastrophe. It's more like a fork in the road, a crucial turning point where you face a big challenge. If you navigate it successfully, you gain a new psychological strength, what he called a virtue. But if you struggle, you might carry a hidden burden with you into the next phase of your life.
So here's our game plan for today. We'll start with the big picture, your life's secret blueprint. Then we'll walk through the foundational years, the quest for mastery and identity, the challenges of love and legacy, and we'll wrap up with the final look back.
All right, first up, let's get that big psychological map laid out on the table so we can see the entire journey from start to finish.
And there it is, Erikson's 8 stages of life. It all starts in our very first year with trust versus mistrust, and it goes all the way to our final years dealing with integrity versus despair. And the thing is, each stage builds directly on the one before it, literally creating the person you are today.
So let's jump right in at the beginning with the foundational years. Seriously, these first 3 stages are where the absolute core of your personality is forged. So, stage 1. This is from birth to about 1 year old. The central question is so simple, but it's incredibly profound. Is the world a safe place? If your needs were consistently met, you develop the virtue of hope. If they weren't, well, the world feels unpredictable. And here's the kicker, the adult link. This can lead directly to what we now call an anxious attachment style. You know that feeling where you're always on high alert, just waiting for things to go wrong in your relationship.
Okay, next up, stage 2, the toddler years. The big question now becomes, can I do things myself? When you succeed at this, you get the virtue of willpower. Think about it. If you were encouraged to explore and try things, you gained autonomy. But if you were shamed for, making a mess or having an accident, that plants a little seed of doubt. And as an adult, that can show up as constantly second-guessing every single decision you make.
And then we hit the why stage. You know what I'm talking about. From ages 3 to 6, your whole job is to take initiative, to ask questions, to explore. If that was encouraged, you walk away with a sense of purpose. But if your curiosity was constantly shut down, that drive turns into guilt. And that early guilt, it can absolutely reappear later in life as imposter syndrome. That nagging feeling that you're a total fraud anytime you try to take the lead.
Okay, let's move on. We're now entering the school age and teenage years. This whole section is about 2 huge things, mastery and identity. Basically, finding your place in the big wide world. All right, so from about 6 to 12, your world just explodes. It expands to school, and the central question becomes, how can I be good at things? This is where you develop what Erikson called industry by mastering skills, and you gain the virtue of competence. But, and this is a big but, this is also when social comparison really kicks into high gear. And if you are constantly being told you weren't as good as someone else, it can install this deep-seated feeling of inferiority that can follow you right into your career, always feeling that awful feeling of just not being enough.
Now, before we jump into the next stage, here's a cool little fact. Erikson himself is the guy who actually coined the term identity crisis. It wasn't just some pop culture phrase that caught on. It was his clinical observation of a supercritical life stage.
And that famous term brings us right to stage 5, adolescence. The question here is, well, it's the big one. Who am I? The whole goal is to forge a stable identity, to gain the virtue of fidelity, which is really about being true to yourself. But if that whole process gets cut short or confused, you end up with what he called role confusion. And that is what leads to that anchorless, drifting feeling a lot of people have in their 20s.
Okay, we're now entering adulthood proper. These next 2 stages, love and legacy, are all about the core challenges we face as grown-ups. connecting deeply with other people, and, making our mark on the world.
So, between the ages of about 18 and 40, the focus shifts to intimacy versus isolation. But here's the crucial part Erikson pointed out. You can't really be intimate with someone else until you have a solid sense of your own identity from the last stage. If you don't, you either end up losing yourself completely in the relationship or you keep people at a distance to protect that fragile sense of self. Get this right, though, and you gain the powerful virtue of love.
All right, next up, from about 40 to 65, we face generativity versus stagnation. The question totally flips. It's no longer what can I get from the world, but what can I give to the world? Generativity is that drive to create, to mentor the next generation. It's all about leaving a legacy. But if you don't find a way to contribute, you feel stagnation, this profound sense of just being stuck. And that feeling of emptiness, that right there is the midlife crisis.
And so, we've arrived at the final stage of life. But hey, stick with me here, because this section, it has what I think is one of the most hopeful and empowering messages in all of psychology.
In our later years, from 65 on, we all do it. We conduct a kind of life review. And the big question is, did I live a meaningful life? If you can look back and accept your life, the good, the bad, all of it, as something that was uniquely yours, you achieve what Erikson called integrity. The virtue you gain from that is true wisdom. The alternative, of course, is looking back with a whole lot of regret and what-ifs, and that leads to despair.
But this is it. This is the most important takeaway from this entire framework. Erikson's theory is not a life sentence. You are not doomed by your past. It is never, ever too late.
You can actively go back and work on these challenges from earlier in your life. It's a three-step process, really. First, you acknowledge the burden, just recognize where you might be struggling. Second, understand the stage. Connect that struggle back to one of these crises we talked about. And third, you consciously work to build the virtue you might have missed out on. You can learn to trust as an adult. You can absolutely find your identity at 50. You are always a work in progress.
So I want to leave you with this question to chew on. As you look at this blueprint of a life, which stage feels like your current battleground? Is it the challenge of finding real intimacy? Or maybe building a legacy? Or perhaps you're realizing you're still working on a much earlier stage. And that's okay, because understanding the map is always the first step to navigating the journey.